I love Chelsea and the Financial Diet. Throughout my 20s, I would consume the Financial Diet on YouTube like it was nobody's business. And now in my 30s, I love getting to watch and consume Chelsea on TikTok. She has such great taste. So in this video, she talks about generational wealth and the invisible force field. And essentially the idea is that having wealth is less about just being able to buy things that you want, but having this invisible force field. Safety net is part of it, like your ability to take risks and try new things, but it's also this thing, this protector for when issues arise in your life. Your car breaks down, you lose your job, you break your foot, whatever it is, like those are big problems that you may experience. But if you don't have an invisible force field on top of the problem, you now have the added layer and stress of being able to afford taking care of the issue. But if you have money, your only problem is the problem because you have the money and the means to kind of take care of it. And I think that there's certain degrees to this. I definitely grew up with my own sense of privilege. My parents paid for my college, they paid for my wedding, they paid for my first year of rent when I graduated college. And I knew that if I got laid off, if I made a mistake, I could move back home with my parents if I wanted to. Like I lived my 20s with a certain sense of an invisible force field compared to my husband who grew up very, very low income and constantly with a scarcity mindset. He was always terrified of making a move or doing anything because he understood the consequences and the impact would be so much more severe for him. But that's just on a smaller scale. Like I still understood having money problems and wondering and worrying about how we're going to pay for certain things. Imagine that like multiplied for people who grew up with true wealth and generational wealth especially. I remember when I first started my job after college, I think I was making like 50 something thousand dollars a year. And all my peers, we were all making the same amount of money. But somehow my peers were able to live and spend a lot differently than I was. They were traveling significantly more, both domestically and internationally. They were going out to really, really nice restaurants. They were going to places that I couldn't even imagine going in my early 20s. But then I realized that my peers weren't spending the money they were making. They just had access to their parents' money in a way that I just wasn't aware of. So it's so wild that when you're in your adulthood and you are around your peers who you think have similar income than you, see little moments in their life that doesn't really add up, like, how are you going to Europe again this year? Or how are you buying XYZ? And you realize what they have beyond the income that they make is generational wealth.